Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin Bubble News channel. In general, one choice is for the US to do something called strategic devaluation of the dollar. They might be able to, and one way to do that is to build up reserve funds. After that, there have been rumors that they might add Bitcoin as a reserve currency. That doesn't happen very often. In some ways, El Salvador has done that. You can't see it. It would be pretty odd for central banks to act in that way right now. Bitcoin Bubble stands out because it is clear and easy to understand. There's no limit to who can join, no matter how much they know about crypto or how new they are to it. Guess who is watching us now? Robert Kiyosaki is the author of the best-selling book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We'd also like to use this chance to thank everyone who put their trust in us, and we read all of them. It's also free, which is great. If you sign up now, you'll get all the new information for free. Stay ahead of the trends instead of just following them. Sign up for Bitcoin Bubble right now and enjoy the new edge. Lyn Alden talks about the rise of fiscal power and how it will affect markets in the second half of 2024 and beyond in today's video. First, she talks about Bitcoin as a backup asset. Next, she talks about the effects of the election, what types of assets should do well in the next 3 to 6 months, and more. The fact that the US already has about 1% of Bitcoin makes that one of the easier things for them to do. They already have more than 200,000 coins from seizing different assets, and they sell some of them on the market every so often. If they wanted to do something without making a big deal out of it, the easiest thing for them to do would be to say, well, we already own these assets. Stop selling them and move them to where we keep our reserves. That's one choice. The other choice is to just gather them all up. That, of course, would have a bigger effect on the price. It would also be a more exciting event. But I do think that if Trump is elected, there will be a higher chance of some of these strange policies happening. For example, the US might decide to build up its reserves, or we might learn more about the differences in currencies between the US and some of its trading partners. Spot Ethereum exchange-traded funds ETFs in the US have lost a total of $113.3 million on their second trading day. This is mostly because Grayscale's Ethereum Trust has lost a lot of money. On the second day of trading, 7 of the 8 new spot Ethereum ETFs saw net gains. Most of the money that came into the market went into the Fidelity Ethereum Fund FETH and the Bitwise Ethereum ETF VITW, $74.5 million and $29.5 million, respectively. On July 24th, buyers only put $17.4 million into BlackRock's Ethereum Trust ETH, even though it had the most money coming in of the group on July 23rd. The new ETF's performance was hurt by another day of heavy selling, with $326.9 million leaving the fund. ETH, which was created by Grayscale and released in 2017, let big buyers buy Ethereum. It did, however, lock up all assets for 6 months. It has been easier for buyers to sell their Ethereum since July 22nd, when it was changed into a spot Ethereum fund. Following its conversion 2 days ago, ETH has seen existing ETH investors sell off just over 9% of the fund's shares. The current performance of the Ethereum ETF is not unusual. 6 of the 10 first trading days of the spot Bitcoin ETF saw total net outflows. Many people blamed outflows from the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust ETF. Notably, Ethereum dropped more quickly than Bitcoin, which only dropped 2.6%. This fits with what Kaiko Analyst says. Well, Kay said that Ethereum's price might be very affected by money coming in after the ETF goes live. ETH from Grayscale lost $484.4 million on its first day of trading as a spot Ethereum ETF, but strong inflows into the other 8 goods brought the total net inflows to $106.6 million. We're getting pretty close to success. In general, the size is also growing, to the point where it's as big as gold, the money used by the world's top countries, or the value of all the stocks in the world. Those are also important points. On the whole, that kind of supports the idea that Bitcoin is becoming one of the best currencies to hold around the world. To be more specific, I mean that the average developing country currency supply grows by tens of percent every year. In Egypt, for example, is over 20%, which doesn't happen very often. 6% to 9% is the norm in developed countries. Obviously, the pandemic age blew that out a bit, but if you look at the last 50 to 60 years, you can expect supply growth of around 6% to 9%. The price of gold is about 2% or less, based on the year and the way it is made. The rate is between 1% and 2%, which is pretty low. It's commonly around 1%, but it can go as high as 2%. Bitcoin, on the other hand, doesn't have any long-term supply growth after the first distribution cycle. there is already less inflation in it than in gold as a percent of supply growth. I believe it is still somewhat below its total reset market for where it's going to get. Also, just generally, I think that if we took those things out of the equation, there would be more money in circulation around the world by late 2025. As long as everything else stays the same, that should be good for Bitcoin. Of course, one-time events or changes in the story can happen, because one way to think about Bitcoin is that if you look at all its qualities, they're very appealing. People, on the other hand, have this risk rating which they use. They ask, well, what is the US's share of going after it, or what is the percent that there's a big problem with the strategy, or what the chances of having X, Y, or Z happen. And because of this, Bitcoin is priced like an option. Anything that gets rid of some of that long-term risk can have a big effect on the price. This is because if you say, it's already great. But I was worried about this tail risk, and then that risk either goes away or gets cut in half, the investment you're left with is very cheap. That means all of those things are good, most of the time. I start with the conservative idea that these kinds of unusual events won't happen and that I'll be ready for a more normal cycle. But then, if those things happen, they usually make it more likely that you'll do better than expected. Bitcoin fell below $65. 000 for the first time in 6 days. This is likely because of changes in the market's mood and the turn of the seasons, instead of the creditors of mid-gox selling Bitcoin. You didn't have to worry about the quick dump happening. It's possible that the market would cause any price drop. Kai-Young Ju, the founder of CryptoQuant, wrote in a July 24 X post that no mid-gox sales were coming. All of the world's time zones have changed to added since the mid-gox debtors were paid back. That sounds like false information to me. Roman, a crypto trader, has always been it. Several experts say that the drop in prices could be due to seasonal factors. Things like the start of the spot Ethereum ETF and even politics. Timothy Peterson, founder of Cane Island Alternative Advisors, said that Bitcoin's poor performance was due to the fact that it is this time of year when performance is usually poor. From July 22nd to September 22nd, our study shows a steady pattern of poor performance. Peterson said that Bitcoin's seasonal trend starts a little later in the year and sets the stage for the often occurring October that follows. Charles Edwards, the founder of Capriol Investments, said that the start of spot Ethereum exchange traded funds on July 23rd could also be changing how people feel about the market. Charles Edwards, founder of Capriol Investments, wrote in a July 24 X post that the market as a whole would have been better if the Ethereum ETF start hadn't been in 2024. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum have lost money since the start of the Ethereum ETF. During this whole cycle, Ethereum has been stuck, and now the start of the ETF has made things more complicated at the institutional level. However, the Crypto Fear and Greed Index shows that general sentiment is still on the more positive side. The measure shows how the market feels about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It now has a greed score of 68, which is 7 points higher than it was a week ago. Also, don't forget to sign up for Bitcoin Seller. Every day for free, the most important news will be sent to your email. I don't understand why you haven't signed up yet. Please like and subscribe.